Hey, what's up, gang? I thought that we would do a video on the Oblivion Gate Crisis since it's a very important event in the game we're playing right now, which is aptly named Oblivion, and is also a pretty big event overall in the history of Tamriel. So uh, I know kind of a bit about it. This is it's been a while since this playthrough, since I played Oblivion, and especially the main quest. So it, I have an idea about what it's about, but just the please know that this video contains spoilers. If you are not interested in hearing the end and just want to see me play through it, but I think that you could still watch me do the playthroughs and still be enriched by this lore and the knowledge, and it might even enhance the experience. So it's up to you. If you feel that I'm revealing too much information, please turn the video off. And um, yeah, so I just kind of wanted to refresh myself and then also help give you guys a background in the Oblivion Gate Crisis, which is we're going to quell in um, the end game and in Cyrodiil and the Elder Scrolls game Oblivion, which we're playing. The Oblivion Crisis, known as the Great Anguish, was a total war between Mehrunes Dagon's Daedra hordes and the population of Tamriel. It began with the assassination of Uriel Septim VII, played by voice actor Patrick Stewart. So very good choice there in regards to voice acting. And all of his known heirs. And the Third Era 433 resulted across the entire provinces. The Daedra besieged Skyrim and laid waste to the old holds. And yeah, so like this, the Oblivion Gate Crisis, although we encounter it in the game, it's throughout all of Tamriel. This is happening. It's not just Cyrodiil. In Black Marsh, the Hist called many Argonians to fight off the Daedra. According to Anne Zelil, the Daedra were forced to close their Oblivion gates in Black Marsh due to an Aragonian counter invasion. That's pretty crazy. So the Argonians or Aragonians, the lizard people, actually drove out the Daedra, which are like demons with supernatural powers. So that kind of puts a new perspective on Aragonian strength. So in Cyrodiil, the city of Kvatch was completely destroyed, which you'll see if you guys watch the last episode, we actually enter Kvatch. We save Martin Septim, and it's revealed in that episode anyway that he's the bastard heir to the throne due to he's one of Uriel's children. Adril Arano, second counselor of Ravenrock from the 3rd century of the 4th era, claimed the Empire pulled most of its forces out of Morrowind during the crisis. However, this contradicts the words of High Chancellor Octo himself during the crisis, who stated that Cyrodiil and cities such as Bruma were virtually defenseless precisely because he was both unable and unwilling to pull any troops out of the other provinces. Indeed, the Imperial province was left almost entirely to its own devices. No foreign legions were ever found within Cyrodiil for the entirety of the crisis or its immediate aftermath. Still, a history of Raven Rock Colony records that the bulk of the Imperial Guard stationed there was recalled to Cyrodiil from the then Nordic Solstheim, though the author's source of the matter are on the Redoran Dunmer of the settlement. Although the Empire was near collapse, Uriel VII's illegitimate son, Martin Septim, who we just rescued last episode, ended the invasion with the help of a mysterious hero. Is that us? Are we the mysterious hero? I think so. However, the cost was enormous. Martin, the last of the Septim bloodline, sacrificed himself in the Amulet of Kings to become an avatar of Akatosh, who is, I think, the dragon god of time. Akatosh, known as Uri or Uriel to the Mer, Oranu to the dragons, the great dragon of time, to the Needs, and the Needs are like the name of the pre-humans. So the Needs were the first race of humans to come to Tamriel, and then they broke off into Bretons and Nords and whatnot. And my understanding is that the in current 9 divines, which there's Akatosh, Stendar, there's a whole bunch of them, uh, are basically incarnations of different religions all mixed mashed together for solidarity in the empire. So it's kind of like how the Romans took the Greek gods and re-envisioned them as Roman gods to sort of satiate the people, I guess. The cost, however, was enormous, and this is a big spoiler here. Just let you know, Martin, the last of the Septim bloodline, sacrificed himself in the Amulet of Kings to become. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so we'll wait on that. But yeah, I warned you before this video started. Avatar of Akatosh to cast Mehrunes Dagon back into Oblivion. This event marked the end of the Third Era, so it's a pretty big event. So here is the beginning of the game in Oblivion, where we actually witnessed Zero Septim assassinated by a cult of the Mythic Dawn. And the Mythic Dawn are basically these crappy people that want to see the Empire fail, and they are killing all of Uriel Septim's bloodline, and they are subservient to, I think, a guy named Mancor, and they might bring this up here in a bit. Yeah, so let's just see if they bring it up here. Mehrunes Dagon long had desires upon Tamriel. Starting the Internum period, initially Mehrunes Dagon had little interest in Mundus, and Mundus is like the Elder Scrolls word for reality. So basically, whenever they say Mundus, they mean like reality. So what we know, what we can touch, taste, feel, etc. As other Daedric princes thought to expand their influence in the absence of the Dragonblood Emperors maintaining Akatosh's covenant, Molag Bal initially invaded Tamriel at this time with his attempted plane meld, and then the Triad of Mephala, Nocturnal, and Clavicus Vile attempted to gain influence under him, and those are all Daedric princes, and bypassed Sothasil's Cold Harbor Compact. But Kinlady Estra, dissatisfied with the tolerant direction of the High Queen and of the Altmeri Dominion had taken, made a pact with Mehrunes Dagon. And Mehrunes Dagon is the Daedric Prince of Ambition, which makes a lot of sense, and plots. So he's, and I think also destruction. So he's very, about social change, which, but usually not in a good way. True domain was hope and change, that he would liberate Mundus from the Aedra, granting his followers eternal. And the Aedra are like, they're kind of elements of Christianity, but in the Elder Scrolls games, but it's not really. Their religious structure is a lot different, and so you could say that the Daedra, for the most part, are kind of demons, and for the most part are pretty evil. So you could make a comparison to demons, and the Aedra are more benevolent, I guess, but they have less impact in the world, and they might be more like, I don't know a lot about the Aedra, but I have a feeling they're more like the Greek pantheon, where they are a little indifferent and maybe self-absorbed, but they're probably the closest you get to like good, like angels, maybe, is a kind of a Christian comparison, although angels are more, in Christianity, more functionary. They're more accomplishing tasks, and there are just a few notable angels that seem to have more of a free will about them, and free will, like in regards to, they're still do everything according to God's plan. Even the demons and Satan, according to Christianity, are trapped within God's plan. So even in their best attempts to muck things up, they can't, because God is over everything. So that's like a free will predestination. And now we're just getting way off the rails in regards to the Elder Scrolls. So yeah, long story short, the Aedra are like good, benevolent supernatural creatures, and the Daedra are bad. So, but every so often you get someone who's like, Oh, if I go to the Daedra, I'm going to totally change the world for good. And this is, I think, what was happening here. Um, Granting as follows eternal paradise, which should manifest itself as a small plane of oblivion. So yeah, so Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric Prince of Plots, promised the Mythic Dawn paradise, and it's supposedly an oblivion, and maybe there's because it's not like Christianity. You might be able to grant some form of paradise, but overall it's going to be bad. I mean, we've been to Oblivion, and Oblivion is like hellish. Like it's like lakes of fire and lava and spikes and all kinds of gnarly stuff going on, and busty spiders and triceratops and gators, and you gotta. It's so weird the Dremora or Daedra and how they imagine them for this game. This is pretty creative but very random. Um, so yeah, so Mehrunes Dagon is like, help me alter the world and I will give you paradise and oblivion. And it's like, maybe, but probably not. And it definitely wouldn't be paradise for everyone else, I imagine. Um, it, it's believed that Mehrunes Dagon may have a hand in the infamous Camoran usurper's conquests in eastern Tamriel, who was known to use armies of Daedra of the Undead, but supposedly the usurper lost favor with his master shortly before defeat, falling back on the use of mortal armies and conventional trickery. Mankar, okay, yeah. Mankar, Cameron claimed relation to the Cameron usurper, supposedly being born to his mistress on the same day as his defeat. It is also thought that Mehrunes Dagon played an active role in the Imperial simulacrum, then the Imperial battle mage Jagar Tharn impersonated the Emperor for 10 years. Crazy. Yeah. So before this event, even this is the same Emperor. Poor guy, poor Patrick Stewart. But yeah, like his one of his close advisors, a battle mage, Jagar Tharn, basically trapped Uriel in oblivion for 10 years. So like kind of in hell for 10 years, and paraded himself as him. It was just pretty crazy. But yeah, so I guess Uriel Septim the Seventh is had quite the reign, and then he ended up getting assassinated. That's Uriel Seventh there, and just this it's just insane. But like, yeah, banished to a portion of Oblivion controlled by Mehrunes Dagon. He just remembers a time as a series of nightmares. This might also explain. It's just depressing. This may also explain the series of provincial wars that came about in the Simulacrum. So Simulacrum is during this time was what they called it when Nero the Seventh was basically banished to oblivion, and is by one of his closest advisors who turned into emulated him to do a bunch of bad things, which is just crazy. Came in from Tharn's incompetent ruling that they would perform some sort of rite for the Prince of Destruction. Jagar Tharn also made a deal to give Mehrunes Dagon access to the Imperial Battle Spire, which he invaded, which Tharn gained by removing powerful battle mages that may have threatened his rule. During this time, Mehrunes Dagon was strengthening his hold on Oblivion, also invading the Soul Cairn and the Shade Perilous, and recruiting several seducers to his army. Seducers are like female demons, potentially in preparation for his invasion of Tamriel. Following the overthrow of Jagar Tharn by the Imperial champion, the forces of the Empire hunted down several of Dagon's agents. And then there's the major battles, which we will probably partake in later in this game. So there's the Siege of Kavash, which we've already experienced. The gates to Oblivion were opened outside Kvatch, from which a horde of Daedra and a siege crawler emerged to overwhelm the guard and sack the city. Much of the population was killed, including Count Armelius, Goldwine, and Saint Jube. After the city was occupied by Daedric forces, most of the gates were closed, leaving only one lesser gate locked, blocking the city gates. The gate was eventually closed by a mysterious hero who would later be dubbed the Hero of Kvatch, which is us, who then helped the remaining city guard retake the city. The fall of Alderun. So this is in Morrowind. So the Siege of Kvatch is an event that happened in Cyrodiil. So now we go over to Morrowind, the fall of Alderun. The city of Alderun was destroyed by the Daedra. In an attempt to defend the city, the Redoran resurrected the Aldscar Emperor Crab, which also fell. It's just so random and creative. The Marsh Theater, the Black Marsh Theater, I guess is the name of the event. The Hist were able to somehow anticipate the Mehrunes Dagon and shortly before recalled much of the Aragonian population back to their home province. There, the Aragonians were invited into the Hist trees and somehow strengthened physically. Okay, I wondered. The Aragonians were so successful in defending their homeland, they were able to counter-invade the Oblivion Gates that were being summoned, forcing the Daedra to close them. Crazy. So the Aragonians not only trounced the Daedra, they also entered the Oblivion Gates and shut them down. It's, kudos to the Aragonians. The defense of Bruma. Martin Septim, this back in Cyrodiil. Martin Septim led an army of Cyrodiilic guards to victory over the invading Daedric hordes. The statue was erected within the city walls in honor of the lone hero who charged into Oblivion in order to shut the Great Gate and prevent the destruction of Bruma. So there's a little spoiler there, and we're strangers to Oblivion, but we're that definitely going to be in some kind of epic battle in Oblivion. Attack on the Imperial City. High Chancellor Octo Martin Septim, his blades, the Imperial Legionary escorts fought their way through an Oblivion besieged Imperial City. During this battle, dozens of Oblivion gates opened around the city, and the Daedric Prince Mehrunes Dagon himself appeared. That'll be pretty crazy. So that's another reason to tune into the series, is we'll eventually meet Mehrunes Dagon himself, which will be pretty crazy. Marking the fall of the barriers between Oblivion and Nirn. The battle ended when Martin Septim, in a desperate last-ditch effort, shattered the Amulet of Kings and became the Avatar of Akatosh. The Avatar banished Dagon back into Oblivion, ending the Oblivion Crisis. The Avatar turned to stone, killing Martin, but also leaving a permanent reminder of Martin's sacrifice. The Oblivion Crisis has created a renewed fear of the Daedra, of dark magic, as well as magic in general, particularly in Skyrim, which has a long-standing tradition of magical learning and practice. This paranoia towards magic saw the dissolution of the Mages Guild, which was replaced by the two institutions of the Synod and the College of Whispers, which is under Imperial control. The Invigilant of Stendarr were founded in response to the Oblivion Crisis to hunt any Daedra or practitioners of the dark arts across Tamriel. The Mythic Dawn, responsible for the Oblivion Crisis, were hunted down by numerous warrior groups and were thoroughly eradicated, though there would be later attempts to rebuild the cult. One group was formed known as the Keepers of the Razor, who sought out Mehrunes Dagger, an artifact of the Daedric Prince of Destruction, who then broke the weapon into 3 pieces, passed along to the descendants who would move to Skyrim to keep them out of the hands of the potential cultists, which is a quest actually, a Daedric quest actually, that you can do in Skyrim. The death of Martin Septim marked the end of the Septim dynasty in the Third Era, while Mehrunes Dagon had failed to conquer Tamriel. The damage to the continent would greatly weaken the Empire. Most of the provinces of the Empire were already rested before the crisis had broken out, and without a clear heir to the throne, separatist sentiments grew even greater, with common rumors in Cyrodiil already speaking of provinces wanting to secede from the Empire. High Chancellor Octo would become potentate of the Empire, attempting attempting to stabilize it. However, soon Black Marsh would secede under the nationalist and Zuxil, the only province seeming strengthened during the Oblivion Crisis, renamed the land Aragonia. Yeah, they actually fought the demons back, so they became, uh, growing power, I guess, after this event. It's like any major historical crisis or event that changes history is out, afterward. It usually will change the political landscape of the world, or in this case, Tamriel. So, you know, it's interesting. History is always very interesting, and I love just, mindless fantasy silliness. Is just, I don't know, I enjoy it. And I think, the Elder Scrolls is one of those games that has jar token levels of just lore that is just really thought out and very entertaining and very imaginative. And I just, it's very, very creative. The only province, okay. Argonia would then take advantage of the chaos of the Red Year to invade Morrowind, which makes sense because Morrowind, the Dunmer, or the Dark Elves, were taking Argonian slaves there. So I imagine that was a long time coming. So they invaded Morrowind, which weakened them further, which in turn would fuel anti-imperial sentiment. Were unable to help, and the Empire was too weak to help. The Dunmer, which the Empire also had Morrowind. So this game, the Oblivion, is kind of the end of an age, and we're playing as in the Imperial realm, in the center, the heart of Tamriel, the Empire of Tamriel, the Imperial Empire. We're kind of playing the game during the final years of the Empire's golden years. In Skyrim, the Empire's still around, but that's later, and you see it being chipped away, and you see things like the Thalmor, which are Altmer agents from Somerset Isle that are trying to, using power and leverage from the White Gold Concord that they struck up with the Empire to take advantage of the Empire in its weakened state and try to create turmoil in Skyrim, which is, that's another interesting game. It's the Skyrim game. So Skyrim is after these events. The which in turn would fuel anti-imperial sentiment, were unable to help during the crisis. The assassination of potentate Octo and Fourth Era 15 led to the start of the Stormcrown Internum, which ended with Titus Mede the First, the founder of the Mede dynasty, captured the city, in Imperial City, in 422 during this chaos. Orsinium, the orcs don't have a homeland per se, but Orsinium is a city that's the closest that you can get to the concentration of power in the Elder Scrolls and the Elder Scrolls games. Once again, by High Rock and Hammerfell. The Oblivion Crisis also helped propel the marginalized Thalmor of the Somerset Isles to new prominence, as they were instrumental in its defense, and after the crisis was resolved, took most of the credit. The Thalmor would later push to secede entirely from the Empire, and Fourth Era 22 and seized Valenwood and a coup, and Fourth Era 29 reforming the Altmeri Dominion. Yeah, so the next empire on the rise is the at least currently, probably in Elder Scrolls 6 is the Altmeri Dominion, unless something changes, which is possible. The Empire seems to, still, even in Skyrim, which is seriously crippled, the Empire seems to still hold great sway and influence, and still to take it down. It's still, the other nations are relying on secession and natural secession and stealthy infiltration versus direct war, because the Empire is still very dominant. But yeah, so that's kind of recap of the Oblivion Crisis, and that will help hopefully give us some important information going forward in the game, and and just really enrich the lore and enlighten us in the awesome, just super creative storytelling of the Elder Scrolls. And yeah, and if you guys chose to watch this video, let me know what you think. If you like these kind of lore dives, it's not, this isn't a lore channel per se. It's not, definitely not like a Elder Scrolls lore channel, but it is. I don't mind learning about the lore, and if you're patient with me and understand that I'm learning with you. There's some stuff I know, but I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know. There's so much I don't know. What I don't know is always greater than what I do know. But like, it's kind of exciting to kind of enrich the world and sort of learn more about uh, um, the lore of the game that you're playing. And I think Elder Scrolls has some of the best storytelling, and it's just very creative and very novel, and goes really in depth. So yeah, if you like this type of video, please don't forget to give it a like, and that lets me know that you like this kind of style of video, and share it with your friends. And yeah, well, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to seeing you again for another adventure for our next adventure in Cyrodiil. And now you'll have a bit of a history behind it so we can understand the weight and gravity of the situation. So we'll see you again soon.